Back to issues to do with COVID-19 now, and Gauteng is in the spotlight as the province's COVID-19 numbers keep rising. Compliance and regulations have come into sharp focus, especially for business owners. This morning, Gauteng government officials and the Liquor Board are visiting tavern owners to remind them of the rules. Here's eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu, who joins us now for a live update. And Manqoba, there was a comprehensive list of where the various MECs were going to be this morning to check on compliance by various sectors of society with the level 3 regulations. With the numbers being what they are in Gauteng, it seems we're trying to whip everyone back into shape to say, let's get back to the compliance we could, enforce in the early stages of the lockdown. Where are you at the moment and what are you seeing? How has the progress been in as far as checking in on compliance?
Indeed, Tulas, compliance. That is the message that is being preached here at this gathering. It is a rather unusual gathering that is taking place here, Tulas, in Tembisa, at one of the pubs here in Tembisa, where the Liquor Trading Association is holding a training session for taverners as well as liquor traders in this particular province, really preaching the message of compliance and adherence to those COVID-19 regulations. And of course, this comes as there's been growing calls for perhaps another liquor ban due to the third wave of coronavirus infections. And the concern really from government is that many of the liquor traders are simply not adhering to those lockdown regulations. They are not practicing social distancing. And the fact that when you go to some of these liquor traders, their outlets, you find that there actually are quite a number of people that are attending to those social gatherings at a particular point, not really adhering to those regulations when it comes to the number of people that can gather indoors or outdoors for a particular function. So this is one of the perhaps a turning point in the fight against COVID-19, with the Liquor Trading Association saying that it wants these liquor traders to actually comply. It is now training them on the basics of what is needed in order to comply with COVID-19. But let's find out more from the Gauteng Liquor Regulation Board in terms of compliance. I'm joined by Babu Raymond here, who's from the Gauteng Liquor Trading Board. Raymond Martin, thank you for your time, Baba. We're talking about issues of compliance here, and of course, this is what is being talked about here in this particular gathering. But you have been on the ground with police, with law enforcement in various operations. What are you seeing in terms of compliance? Are liquor traders complying here in Gauteng?
I must say, Babu Mchunu, the majority of our traders are complying. It's only a handful of those that are actually hell-bent on breaking the law. However, those that have been breaking the law have been seriously dealt with by ourselves and as well as the law enforcement agents. But I want to commend all of those who are firstly complying with the protocols, the health protocols, and ensuring that people's lives are saved out there.
In terms of, you've just spoken now that a majority are complying, but of course there is a chunk of those that are still not complying. And looking at that, do you feel that perhaps they are adding to this COVID-19 infections that we're seeing in the province?
Undoubtedly. At one point, the liquor outlets are deemed as super spreaders because of the number of people that visit there. So it is incumbent on us as well as the law enforcement agents to ensure that we minimize and mitigate against the spread of the virus. And we also implore all our liquor traders to ensure that they too play their part in minimizing the spread of the coronavirus, because their outlets have been deemed as super spreaders. Some of the things that we have advised these guys on is try and reduce the numbers. But also, one thing that is big in some of these outlets is music. So one of the issues that we have raised with them is, if you can, stop playing music at some point, or play it softly, as opposed to what we're experiencing at this point in time, because we are all working together to ensure that we mitigate against the spread of the virus. And I know that many of them say without music we can't have people coming, but because of the spread of the virus, we all have to take a different approach on how we deal with the spread of the virus.
Okay, and in terms of punitive measures, you've spoken about enforcement, and certainly we've seen that for those who have not been complying, there have been some punitive measures that have been taken. So what punitive measures are there in place to ensure that, these outlets do comply with those COVID-19 regulations?
I think we are working with the law enforcement agent at this point because, firstly, I must emphasize that the most basic thing to understand for most of these liquor traders is that, one, if you break the law, if you don't comply, you are breaking the law. That's the first thing. So if you break the law, you are committing a criminal offense, and thereby you will be arrested. So that's the first thing that we always say. So the punitive measures is for us to take them to court and have them prosecuted in terms of the Disaster Management Act.
And in terms of the liquor licenses, we've heard before that, that's also been looked into suspending or, in fact, even, withdrawing some of those liquor licenses. Is this perhaps something that you're also looking into?
What we ordinarily do with them is that we would call them before a disciplinary hearing of the board. And the board would then decide on I think, an appropriate sanction to mete out if anybody is deemed to have been transgressing the law. But you must also remember that once the law has taken its course and the person has been prosecuted in terms of the law or of the courts, there's not much that we would do as a liquor board. Safe to say that we would call them before the board, and in some instances we would then ask them not to trade for a particular period of time if they are serial breakers of the law.
So in terms of the advice, what advice would you give then to liquor traders here in Gauteng, given the numbers that we're seeing of COVID-19 infections? There's quite a huge concern about the fact that these liquor outlets are super spreaders of the coronavirus. So what advice would you give to them as a liquor board?
Our plea to all of them, and that is why we are here supporting this particular program as well, is for us to encourage all of them, firstly the traders, to please trade responsibly. Adhere to all the protocols that are there in the Disaster Management Act, but we also want to plead with them. Please put lives before profits. Please, I'll repeat it, please put lives before profits. We understand that your businesses are dependent on profits, and for you to sustain your business, you need the patrons. But you won't have patrons if all of us die because of your negligence, and no one will be able to come back even after this the virus has dissipated. You'll have no clients because we'll all be gone. So it is in your interest as a liquor trader to ensure that you trade responsibly now, so that even after the pandemic, you'll still have clients to come and patronize your outlets. Secondly, we also want to appeal to the public itself to stop going to all of these places in the masses and the numbers that we see them going. We receive complaints and videos of some of these outlets where people are going in the numbers that they have. And we are pleading as well, and pleading with our public to not to go to these places at this point in time, because the more they travel to these places, the more they carry the virus with them to some of these places. So our appeal to patrons is please minimize the spread of these the spread of the virus by going to these places in the numbers that you have.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Raymond Martin from the Gauteng Liquor Board. He's the CEO of the Gauteng Liquor Board. Really pleading to not only liquor traders but also patrons to ensure that they comply with the COVID-19 regulations. Of course, they're trying to avoid a situation where we could see another alcohol ban being imposed here, more particularly in Gauteng, with the increasing numbers that we're seeing currently in the province.
69% is that figure, Manqoba Mchunu, there, in as far as Gauteng's contribution to new cases. Well, just above 60%. And in fact, at one point, I think they were talking about 69% of all new cases being detected in Gauteng. Manqoba Mchunu there with that live report. In fact, I must tell you that in at the top of the hour, I'll be in conversation with Professor Adrian Puran from the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. We'll be talking about this sharp rise in the cases that are detected in Gauteng. So do stay with us for that conversation and a whole lot more coming up shortly.